Hello everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. Lots for you to enjoy this time around. We'll be at the Curragh for most of the programme. We've got 3 races on the first day of the Irish Derby Festival and of course the Irish Derby itself. We've also got a race from York and one from Carlisle, and it is at Carlisle where we start this week's programme. Here are the winners on what was Bell and Plate Day at Carlisle. The ground was officially described as soft, good to soft in places, and you can see that all of those times were quite slow in comparison to the Racing Post standard. I'm going to major on Rogue Millions in the 4:15, who won over a mile and a half in a time of 2:28.54. Let's have a look and see what time index Rogue Millions achieved in so doing. These are the Race IQ time indexes, and he got a score of 6.3, the meeting average being 6.2, the best time performance coming up in race 3 with a 7.6 out of 10. Those time indexes suggest that the ground was perhaps a little bit better than soft, good to soft in places. I'd say more good to soft. Well, let's start with an amazing performance from Rogue Millions, who came from stall number 2 to beat Fast Fred from 6 and Galix from stall number 1. He had a race IQ disadvantage as far as his draw was concerned of 0.16 lengths, but he's so well handicapped that he was able to overcome everything that happened in this race and win as he liked. 20 miles an hour, well, it took him a while to get up to speed. He was 7th fastest, 2.82 seconds to get there. The fastest was Galix, who ultimately finished back in 3rd spot. Watch this horse travel down against the rail. He's a little bit too keen in the early part of the contest, but in essence he travels all over this field at every part of the contest. This is a horse that James Owen left in the Derby until a late stage, having won a maiden on his latest start, and he opted to go down the handicap route, and this tells us that this horse is well ahead of his mark, which is in the 80s. He's a 100 horse at least on the back of this performance. How was the race run? Well, early on they ran quite evenly. That was for the first 3 furlongs. There wasn't a mad rush early on, and then they steadied it through the 4th and the 5th furlongs. All the jockeys taking a bit of a pull, 13.77 and 13.7 for the winner, Rogue Millions. So there was a couple of furlongs where they really put the brakes on, and these horses were able to fill up prior to turning for home. They then ran evenly until the last 3 furlongs. And it is those last 3 furlongs that's the real data point of interest here, because this winner was very impressive through those furlongs. Rogue Millions went 39.14. Now, he did each of those last 3 furlongs faster than the Race IQ par, to give him a finishing speed percentage of 101.4, above the par for a race of over this distance on this ground at Carlisle, par being 98.44. The 9th furlong, 12.39, then he did a 12.76 and a 13.99. Now, they're not fast furlongs. Later on in the show, we're going to see horses that are running sub-11s and 11-second furlongs, but given the conditions running uphill, this is a relatively fast finish against the Race IQ pars from this horse, and look how he stretches clear for a 4-length success in the end, defying his mark with a good deal of ease, and just ease down inside the final furlong. Now, he's not beaten a very poor field. This was quite a good field of handicappers, and bear in mind he only won a maiden last time up, but he has absolutely annihilated the field here. 39.14 for those final 3 furlongs where he was fast. All of the other horses in the race couldn't get under 40 for the final 3 furlongs. 40.09 the runner-up, 40.33 for the third. So that speed that he showed through the final 3 furlongs, having been quite keen in the early part of the race, which was a bit stop-start, was very impressive from Rogue Millions for the James Owen team. Here's his data. Not so quick to 20 miles an hour, was he? 2.82 seconds. Galix the quickest, but he reached a top speed of 37.65 miles an hour. Per Contra got 37.64 to 1 point, and Tafsir got to 38.55. But it was Rogue Millions who was too strong and fast for them through those final 3 furlongs. He's a good-looking individual. He's clearly highly thought of, and there's going to be a lot more to come from this horse. He's entered in the John Smith's Cup. Not sure if they will go there with him or where they'll go. He's going to get a big rise in the weights, but I suspect he'll be able to defy it. Such was the ease of this win at Carlisle last week. Let's move on to the Dubai Duty-Free Irish Derby Festival on Saturday and Sunday at the Curragh. And we're going to start with 3 races on Saturday afternoon. It's a really good card on the Saturday. Let's have a look at the times and the winners for it. Dorset's taking the opener for the Aidan O'Brien team. Ryan Moore on board, and they won with Beautify as well. Susie Songs, a nice winner of the 220 for GL Lions. Trust Your Instinct, he won in a really fast time. Look at that, 1.16 under the Racing Post standard. There's a Whirl, who took the Pretty Polly, beating Kalpana. Good race that. We'll look at that one. Massoon and Danber Diplomat and Charson completed the winners on a day when the times were pretty quick overall. Let's have a look at the Race IQ Time Index. Officially, the ground described as good. There was a bit of a tailwind, so it was pushing them along a little bit, and so perhaps good was about right. These indices would suggest that the ground was good to firm, as they're fairly high, meeting average of 7.9. The 3 races we're going to have a look at, 8.5 for Dorset, and 8.9 and 8.9 again for Beautify and for Whirl. So some fast times, horses pushed along by the tailwind, but the ground was perhaps just a little bit quicker than good. Let's start with Dorset then. This was the opening contest at 1:15. The Baronstan Stud Irish European Breeders' Fun Maiden for colts and geldings. Funny angle, so we can't pick them up in the stalls, but we can get them just after they've jumped. And there is Dorset. Ryan Moore, very positive on him. Fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.78 seconds. But look at Al Harith out the back. Deary me, he's totally blown it. 13th fastest to 20 miles an hour, 3.78 seconds. It took him a second slower than the winner, Dorset, but runs an absolute blinder, Al Harith. Definitely an eye-catcher in the race to finish in 3rd spot in the end. And that can be marked up even more because Ryan Moore has dictated a steady gallop. He's just got his own way out in front, and he's gone really steady. 12.85, 11.99, then he steadied it to 12.18, and he's gone 12.09. That's the first 4 furlongs, 3 of which rated as slow, as against the Race IQ paths for a race over this distance at the Curragh on this ground. But then he begins to wind it up. And what Dorset does now is very impressive. Keep your eye on Al Harith, making ground on the rail in those white colours, looking for a bit of room. 10.75 for the winner from the front, rated as fast as against the Race IQ paths. You're not going to catch him if he's got a length or so's lead, and he's quickening doing that sectional, followed by this, rated very fast, 11.26. Al Harith's got out now and is running on in 3rd place. What a run that is from him, a surefire winner. Al Harith completely blew the start and was at a positional disadvantage given the pace of the race, and he's come home really strongly. But although Ryan has dictated a steady gallop early on and got his own way in front, you've got to be impressed with the way Dorset quickened in this race. 11.35, 10.75, 11.26 to overall give him 109.64 for his finishing speed percentage. That's over 5% quicker than the par. Al Harith did come home really well. He did fire 1 sub-11 second furlong, his penultimate one, and his one for your notebooks. I've put the 3 of them, the first 3, onto this particular graphic. Buenaventure Cellini is an interesting horse on debut for Aidan O'Brien. Now, he'll win next time probably, as will Al Harith. But look at that from Dorset. Quickening up in great style through those final 3 furlongs. Steady enough early on, then it's a 3 furlong sprint. He was at a positional advantage, but 10.75 is flying along through that penultimate furlong, and he backed it up, sustained speed for an 11.26 to give him 22.01, 22.12 the runner-up, and 22.31 the third. Of course, Aidan O'Brien likes this horse. Very well-bred son of Wootton Bassett. Ryan was quite effusive about him as well, coming back in, and a step up in grade beckons for him. He's got to prove that he can do it in a more strongly run race where perhaps he doesn't get his own way, but he's got a blinding turn of foot. Second race on the card at the Curragh on Saturday was the Airlie Stud Stakes. It's a Group 2 for fillies, and Lady Iman was all the rage in the market for the GL Lions team, having been unbeaten in all of her starts to date, and the trademark of her performances thus far has been her turn of foot. But she gets turned over here by an Aidan O'Brien horse, Dutyfree, having a second career start, and she takes a massive step forward in this contest. Let's have a look at it and see how it developed. And the winner came from stall 2. Lady Iman was second from 6, and Skydance from stall 1 was back in 3rd place. Jump from the stalls, and Ryan Moore's pretty aggressive in the early part of this contest. She was only 4th fastest at 20 miles an hour, but he soon got her across and got her across towards the stand side. Look at Lady Iman, highlighted, big white face, too keen, doing too much, just racing a bit too freely, just wouldn't settle. She looks like she's a sprinter through and through. She didn't settle, and what that meant was that in the latter stages of this race, she didn't get home, she didn't see out the 6 furlongs. Now, Ryan Moore, who on Dorset in the previous race had dictated a steady gallop and then got Dorset to sprint away, he went evenly here. He did not mess about, clearly thinking that his filly was going to be suited by 6 furlongs and perhaps to expose stamina doubts about Lady Iman. He rolled along in front. 10.68 5th furlong was his fastest in the race, and that's when challenged by Lady Iman towards the outside. She looks like she's going to come and win, but she empties in this final furlong. Ryan going 11.95 on the winner, and Lady Iman went 12.24. She'd done a 10.67. She's very similar time to the winner in the penultimate furlong, but then she weakened to a 12.24 in the last furlong, slower than par. And that data tells us that she didn't stay. She did not get home, Lady Iman. Too keen early on, showed speed, 10.67 penultimate furlong, and then flattened out. Whereas the winner kept rolling, Dutyfree kept going out in front, and she won this in a time that was over a second quicker than the winner of a competitive handicap over the same trip later on the card. That makes her a 100 horse all day long, and possibly better. This is a massive step forward from her maiden that she ran in on debut. And look at that, it's even from Ryan Moore this time. He didn't go slow and quicken. Even fractions, that many hitting par just about. 11.03 second furlong, 10.91 third, 11.07 fourth. He's running par there, while Lady Iman's running keenly under restraint. Then a 10.68 when Ryan winds it up, and Lady Iman says, "That's okay, I'm coming with you, 10.67. And then she goes, "Uh-oh, I can't keep that up. I'm done. 12.24. I'm out of here. Ryan, you go and make it a double." The feature event on Saturday was the Paddy Power Pretty Polly Stakes, fillies and mares. It's a Group 1 contest, of course, over a mile and a quarter. It's been won by some very good horses indeed, not least Blue Stocking, who took it last year and then went on to win the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe. Let's have a look and see how this race panned out. The market had it that it was a 2-horse race between Whirl and Kalpana. The market was correct, and those two were pretty strongly into stride. You can see Whirl aggressively ridden to the front. She was fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.61 seconds. Kalpana sat second, was second fastest to 20 miles an hour, 2.71 seconds. Look how aggressive Ryan is on Whirl. Now remember how he had ridden her in the Musidora over this trip at York. He'd been very aggressive there, and she had run some really strong sectionals early in that race and then got tired. And then at Epsom in the Oaks, she dictated an even gallop and was just run out of it by her stable companion in the closing stages. So Ryan was anxious to use her stamina. He knows that she stays a mile and a half, and he wanted to roll along on the lead. But his problem here was he wanted to make sure that he took the energy away from Kalpana. She has got a tremendous turn of foot. She showed it in the Glasgow Stakes, the September Stakes last year. He wanted to drain her of that turn of foot, but in so doing, he didn't want to bottom his filly out in front. So that equation led to him having to carve out even fractions. And guess what? He got it absolutely spot on. He didn't go too fast and bottom his filly, but he didn't go too slow, which meant that Kalpana could use her turn of foot to whoosh past Whirl. He went really even 12.10, even 12.44, even 12.97, even 13.04, 12.2, 12.11, all even fractions before he began to wind it up with 3 to go, where he did a fast 11.43, which he just really picked up in the home straight. And that's rated as fast, but Kalpana's still there with her, still going well, but she's had plenty of energy taken from her because of that even gallop that Ryan's gone, and his filly just stays on really well in the closing stages. 11.19 her penultimate. Kalpana went 11.15. She's hanging on in there. She's not quickening like she did in the September Stakes or the Glasgow, but she's in with a chance. But then that final furlong, Whirl is stronger. A 12.24 against a 12.44. And that's done it for Whirl. She's just basically, off even fractions, seen it out better than Kalpana, who's run a really good race, but she couldn't utilise her turn of foot. She does have a bright turn of foot, which she has displayed in some steadily run races. She stays a mile and a half. She might be better when she goes back up in trip, before she won the Kipco Fillies and Mares last year in soft ground. But here, she's just outstayed in the closing stages by Whirl. And Ryan Moore, in this race, he dictated even fractions, but he gradually and steadily wound it up. Now look at this. This is Whirl. These are her sectionals throughout the race. He's running evenly for those first 4 furlongs, then go to the 5th furlong, just steadied down to a 13.04. Now look how gradually and steadily he increases the pace. He goes 13.04, dropped down to a 12.2, he's quickened it a bit, 12.11, gradually winding it up, 11.43, still winding the pace up, 11.19, and Kalpana came to challenge there, but couldn't go on in the final furlong. It's brilliant from Ryan, he's gone evenly, but then from that 5th furlong, that 13.04, he's just gradually up the ante through every single furlong, drawing the sting, drawing the turn of foot out of Kalpana, while still being able to save enough energy on Whirl for that relatively strong finish compared to Kalpana. That was the ride of a world-class jockey, a ride by the best Ryan Moore. Yeah, I wanted to move away from the Curragh for a little while. We'll be back there shortly to have a look at the Irish Derby on Sunday and go to York at the weekend. They staged a really good card. It was very competitive, some very good prize money on offer. They had a huge crowd in there as well. And they had the Criterion Stakes for the very first time. It used to be run at Newmarket, but now at York. Here are the winners and times from that day on Saturday. I think the top horse, Archivist, the William Haggis, was first time in a handicap. He's a horse to follow. I'd really stick him in your Racing TV tracker. I think he's going to win a decent race. And also 2 others to follow. Hankelo, a 2-year-old who won really well, taking the 340 for Carlberg. And Tequino, they changed the tactics on Tequino, a horse who's been too keen, held up. Oisin Murphy made the running on him, and he absolutely bolted up for the Andrew Balding team, who also won with Dream Out Loud, who put up a very good time performance. Quino's the one we'll look at, though, because that's the Albasti Equiworld Dubai Criterion Stakes, the Group 3 that they've inherited from Newmarket. Here are the time indexes. And the race we're going to look at, the 7 furlong contest, 6.1, meeting average of 6.4. You can see that really good time towards the end of the card at a 4.50. Dream Out Loud. Perhaps also to keep in mind for big sprint handicaps going forward. The ground was officially described as good to firm in places. I think that was just about spot on. So let's have a look at Quino, who put up an interesting performance in the Criterion. He came from stall 5, he beat Sorrel Sticks rather, he beat Room Service from 3 and Pabaras from stall number 2. And well, he's very quickly away and he just wants to get on with things. 2.15 seconds to 20 miles an hour, wow. That's very fast indeed when compared to other races. A really quick start from him. And Jason Hart lets him roll. And he quickly establishes a 3 or 4 length advantage on the field. And he does so not by being rated evenly, Whirl, Ryan Moore style, but by just letting him roll and go as fast as he possibly can for as long as he possibly can. 3rd furlong went 10.86. That followed a 10.94 furlong and a 14.15 first furlong. So his first 3 rated as being fast as against the race IQ par. He's gone as hard as he can through the first 3 furlongs and then he's clinging on. His last 3 furlongs are slow. 11.41, a 12.2 penultimate and a 12.79 final furlong. He's really tired out there. He's getting caught by his nearest pursuers, Room Service, who comes stand side, and Pabaras, but he's able to just cling on. He sucked enough energy out of his rivals in those first 3 furlongs where he went very fast and established enough of a lead to hang on. This is a dirt race on turf. Gone hard early on, got a lead, and then just clung on in the closing stages. The second, Room Service, who came home with the yellow sleeve stand side, Pabarus, the other side of the track, were both faster than him through the final couple of furlongs. 24.46 and 24.73 were faster than Quinault, but Quinault had established enough of an advantage and clung on. His finishing speed percentage telling you all you need to know about how tired he was, 95.54% compared to the par of 99.12. But he still was able to cling on. Yeah, it was an interesting race. Buying lengths at the beginning of the race when they were very cheap and selling them when they were expensive in the closing part of the contest. This tells you all you need to know about how fast he went early on. Look at the sea of green and the top line early on. Faster than par through the first, the second and the third furlongs. He can keep running par thereafter, and now he gets tired at furlong 5. And he's the only horse to be slow through that 5th furlong. He's really on fumes then through the 6th furlong and the 7th furlong. He's very much clinging on as room service came calling in the latter part of the race. But nonetheless, tremendous performance from him. Well done to that man, Stuart Williams, in shot, walking with the horse. He's got his team in tremendous nick at the moment. Jason Hart was told to just let this horse roll along, and he did just that. And establishing a 3 or 4 length advantage through those first 2 furlongs was absolutely vital for this horse. He'll come back to York, we'd have thought, for the Sky Bet 7 furlong Group 1 later in the season. And there'll be no prisoners taken that day with him rolling along. And the Whirlpool race of the week came to the Curragh on Sunday afternoon, the Dubai Dutyfree Irish Derby, where Lambourn was attempting to do the Derby double after success at Epsom. Let's have a look at the winners on the day, and you'll see that Lambourn duly did complete that double in a fast time of 2:29.18, 3.72 under the Racing Post standard. Fleetfoot got under the standard as well. There were some decent winners on the card. Sujet was quite a nice performance in the opening contest for Dermot Weld, a horse to keep an eye on, I think. And Vespertillo beat My Mate Alfie in a very competitive sprint at 2:25. But we concentrate on Lambourn. Let's have a look at his time index and see what he achieved. And it was the highest on the card, courtesy of a strongly run race. 6.9 the meeting average. He achieved an 8.5. The going was described as good. There was a little bit of a tailwind again. I think it was a bit quicker than good, though, looking at those times overall. But this was a very good performance on the clock from Lambourn. So we'll take it from the start. Stall 5 for Lambourn. Serious contender also for Aidan O'Brien from stall 1. Lazy Griff from stall 4 for the Charlie Johnson team, who'd run so well in the Derby at Epsom. Puppet Master's the horse who's really slowly away. A very poor start for Puppet Master and Wayne Lorden. 3.31 seconds to 20 miles an hour, 10th fastest. Fastest, there you go, Ryan Moore, 2.46 seconds. Fastest to 20 miles an hour. And look at these early fractions. He's gone very hard in the early part of this race. There was no hanging around. 2nd furlong, very fast, 11.35. 3rd furlong is a par furlong of 11.8. But they're still rolling along quite fast in the early part of the race. And Ryan wanted to be part of that early on. He was happy to be up there with Sir Dinadan in the early part of the contest, going head to head and toe to toe. It's very interesting, isn't it, that in the Pretty Polly won by Whirl and Dorset's success, Ryan Moore was the fastest to 20 miles an hour on those horses, conscious of the fact that being forward or making the running at the Curragh is generally an advantage, and Ryan was able to make use of that on all 3 of those horses, being the fastest to 20 miles an hour on all of them. This is a strongly run race. First 4 furlongs were quite strong and quite attritional for those in behind, and then they ran par after that, and they didn't really steady at all in this race. There was no mid-race breather. There was no hiding place whatsoever. Ryan, conscious that his horse has got plenty of stamina, and he wanted to utilise that. The mid-furlongs, the 5th, 12.32, the 6th, 12.7, the 7th, 12.57, 11.91, 11.66 then for the mile and the 9 furlong point. Ryan, look, he's at him here, turning in, just niggling away on him, but Lambourn keeps responding. Aidan O'Brien said that he's a lazy type. He doesn't really know what to do. You have to make his mind up. You have to tell him what's required, and if you do, he will respond. And that is the key here, isn't it? Ryan keeps asking him. It looks for a stride or two as if Serious Contender will come and get him. But in those final 3 furlongs, which are all rated as slow or very slow, against the Race IQ Par. Horse is tired from the early gallop, the strong early gallop. This horse has stayed on too strongly for Serious Contender. Look at his 12th furlong. It's rated as very slow, 12.93, but still he's able to see off Serious Contender because he's gone so hard early on, and he's got a lot of these horses at it a long way from home. Plus he was well positioned courtesy of Ryan Moore. Virtually all of the field came home through the final 3 furlongs slowly as against the Race IQ Par. Only one of them did a reasonably good final furlong, and that's the third, Lazy Griff, who stays on strongly. A 12.51 final furlong for Lazy Griff, 12.93 for Lambourn. So Lazy Griff was really eating into Lambourn's advantage late on. You've got to think that both of these horses are ledger horses, Lazy Griff and certainly the winner, Lambourn. Staying is what he does well. He's not a particularly fast horse, and what I would say as well is that the ground was a bit easier at Epsom, and I think that suited him a little bit more. And I think when there's going to be emphasis on speed and a turn of foot, perhaps like in the King George, if he goes there, he might just get found out. There's his finishing speed percentage, 101.22. But look at the fastest furlongs for these horses. Remember, it's a 1.5 mile race, but their fastest furlongs are the second furlong in this race because Ryan Moore wanted to get on with it. He wanted a strong gallop. He ensured that, knowing that his horse would stay. And Aidan O'Brien was quite amusing about this horse after the race. He said he's got no fight or flight instinct whatsoever. You have to tell him what to do and then he'll do it. He said that if he was in the wild, he wouldn't survive. He'd get jumped on by a tiger, is what Aidan O'Brien said afterwards. So he's a bit of a klutz, this fella, but he's very talented. And I'd have thought, surely the St Ledger is the race for him. That's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed looking back on all of those 6 races. I think we saw some really nice performances. I think the whole weekend showed Ryan Moore at his very best. He rides the Curragh better than anybody, but in fact, he rides anywhere better than anybody. Coral Eclipse next week. I'll see you for that.
Watch live racing now on racingtv.com.